HPE VM Essentials is a virtualization solution that enables customers to leverage the KVM-based hypervisor that is available in HPE VM Essentials, as well as to be able to integrate with the customer's existing VMware vSphere estate to be able to provide a unified management platform for provisioning and managing virtual machines. In this case, let's take a look at the capabilities of HPE VM Essentials to be able to provision virtual machines into the environment. So we'll come to provisioning, we'll click instances, we'll select that we want to add a new instance into this environment. In this case, we can see that we have the option to either provision an HPE VM Essentials virtual machine or to provision a VMware virtual machine. The two experiences are very similar that provide a simplified user experience for provisioning virtual machines into either environment. We'll take a look at what it looks like for the HPE VM Essentials virtual machine. We'll select that, we'll click next. We'll provide a name for the HPE VM Essentials virtual machine, HPE Demo 06. We'll select next. We'll select the plan. In this case, the plan is representative of the hardware configuration and specifically the CPU and memory configuration for this particular system. So we'll select 1 CPU, 4 gigabytes of memory. We could select the resource pool. This is going to provide us the ability to be able to select the HPE VM Essentials cluster that we want to deploy this virtual machine to. We could specify that we want to add additional disk for this particular virtual machine, and as well as the ability to be able to select the specific data stores on which we want to place those. In this case, we'll also select a network for this particular system. One of the things to note is that we see here HPE VME internal IP pool associated with this particular network. One of the value adds of HPE VM Essentials is the ability to be able to integrate it with IPAM solutions and DNS solutions to coordinate the provisioning of new workloads. In this case, we're also leveraging the native capability of HPE VM Essentials to define an IP address pool. So this provides us the ability to leverage that native integration, but we could also utilize an integration with a third-party solution like Infoblox, BlueCat, PHP IPAM, as well as DNS solutions like Microsoft Active Directory DNS to be able to do things like reserve an IP address as part of the provisioning of the workload, as well as create DNS records for this particular system as it's being provisioned. We'll come down to select the image that we want to use. For HPE VM Essentials virtual machines, as well as VMware virtual machines, we can either create those virtual machines from scratch, utilizing installation media such as an ISO, as well as there's the ability to be able to leverage virtual machine templates for HPE VM Essentials virtual machines, as well as to be able to integrate with VMware and leverage existing VMware virtual machine templates to be able to quickly provision new virtual machines after integrating the environment with VMware. In this case, we'll select an existing VME template to provision this system from. I also have the ability to be able to select the host that I want to deploy this system on, or I could let the system choose. So in this case, HPE VM Essentials is going to determine where to appropriately place this particular virtual machine within the environment. In this case, I'll leave it as select, which is going to form the auto deployment or auto selection of the host. We'll click on advanced to view some of the advanced options that are available for provisioning a virtual machine. Certainly, we see a couple of things here of note. One thing to call out is scale factor. So HPE VM Essentials does allow for the ability to be able to provision multiple virtual machines as part of the deployment of what is known as an instance. So this is going to allow us to be able to deploy, let's say, multiple web servers as part of the deployment of an instance within HPE VM Essentials. Additionally, we see here things like the ability to be able to skip the agent's install. So as part of the default configuration for deploying a virtual machine, there will be the agent that is installed that is going to be leveraged to grab additional telemetry information utilized for additional logging capabilities, as well as leveraged for automation execution, utilizing the solution's additional capabilities to provide a secure channel. Certainly, there's the ability to be able to skip that, which means that the agent is an optional installation. So in this case, I will select skip agent install. I can also add arbitrary metadata via the tags. So I provide a name and a value for that particular configuration. In this case, I'll leave those blank and I'll click next. Now we're presented with the ability to be able to associate an automation task with the provisioning of this virtual machine. So we'll select, in this case, the demo task. So that's going to be, in this case, a shell script that is going to execute against this particular Linux system as it's being provisioned. That can be leveraged to be able to bootstrap the operating system, to be able to do things like install packages, to turn this into a web server, or harden the operating system as part of the configuration. HPE VM Essentials supports bash or shell scripts, as well as PowerShell scripts from an automation integration perspective to be able to leverage those not only for provisioning operations, but for day two operations on existing virtual machines within the environment. I can also add backups or data protection to this particular system as part of the initial deployment. So I have the ability, in this case, to be able to leverage the native KVM VM-based snapshotting capability to be able to create a backup schedule for this particular system as it is being deployed. Certainly, I could also do that after the fact to define that schedule, as well as to create backups or those integrations for the systems in the environment. So in this case, I will leave the backup off. I will select next. I'm now presented with the option to be able to review this particular configuration. In this case, everything looks good, so I'll click complete. And now away it goes, starting to provision this virtual machine.